Okay. Puan Sharifah ya, I'll start.
Okey, Doktor, boleh je.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Very good morning to everyone. I see that we have quite a number of participants. Thank you very much for making time for this workshop. It's not a workshop. It's like a talk. Okay, but go ahead and interrupt me, if you have questions. And also you can write in the chat if I manage to catch on to your comments, then I respond straight away. So if not, Noraida could perhaps alert me, ataupun or you all can just switch on your mic and call out to me, because when I start talking, I get excited, and when I get excited, I tend to forget about things around me like chairs and perhaps your call. So make sure it's loud enough that I can hear. All right. So before we start, I would like to know how many of you are in your first semester of this postgraduate study, so that I know how detailed I can go, or there are things that may not be relevant to you if this is already your first semester. So how many of you are in your first semester, or how many of you really in need of this input on how to write a chapter 1 of a postgrad thesis? Can you just sort of answer in the chat, so that I know, how much or how detailed I can go for chapter 1. Oh, tak dengar Hello? Puan Sharifah, suara saya soft sangat ke?
Okey je, saya dengar. Kuat je.
Ya. Sebab saya guna mic, so saya mengharapkan tidaklah soft sangat suara saya.
Okey je.
It's clear. Okay. So how much English must I use? Can I mix with Malay? I can see I'm afraid there are non-Malaysians, yeah. Farida Saad, Malaysian. Syed Muhammad Sumayid. Okay. So I'll just share with you straight away, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to use all English, yeah. Is it okay? Or can I mix? Non-Malaysian, right. So I should use all English here, yeah. All right. Okay, mix. All right. Okay, I'm going to use all English. Perhaps there'll be a slit, okay, in language, okay, using Malay, but I think you should be able to, I should be able to revert back to English. All right, so I'll share now my presentation slide, yeah. All right, so this is the slide. Okay, this is chapter 1, introduction and problem statement. When we are doing a postgrad thesis, okay, it's a research, but it is a very formalized kind of research. It's not just simply distributing questionnaires and simply get literature from anywhere. We have to really plan, okay, especially for masters and PhD. Is you have time, okay, you have time constraint, okay, you have to do your PhD and master within a certain time, okay. So you need to utilize the time, and you need to make sure that you are not wasting your time and your money. Okay, in the past is all about money and time, especially money, because instruments that we create, we need to make copies and distribute. Nowadays, we have Google Form, we have all these uh, online application that you can use, which does not cost money. However, we are using the time of the participants. So if we don't really plan and we start distributing questionnaires, and then later on we realize that the instruments are not good enough, they do not capture whatever that we want to capture. If we were to redo it, and then the participant may not want to participate anymore, so we are going to lose um, our critical respondents or participant. Okay, so it is formal. Okay, you really have to plan. Okay, so I'll go to my next slide. Yeah, okay, this one is the copy which I have already shared. If not, Puan Noraida can copy and paste from the one that I've given earlier, and then paste it again, yeah, for newcomers who may not have received it. Okay, this is the copy. Most of the materials that I'm going to talk for this morning is on that uh, copy, yeah. So you can just refer. Those that is outside, that haven't included in that participant copy, you can just type and you can just add. But basically what I don't add would be things like tips, or things like I want to make my presentation more efficient. I have a few slides to show one thing, so those things I don't add or I don't include in the participants copy. Okay, this is our learning objectives. I basically will talk about chapter 1. Okay, to pinpoint the things that I'm going to talk about would be one, I'll go into the background, how to write background of the study. Okay, and also I'll talk about problem statement. I find that students have problems doing these two things. That is why they get stuck with my own students, my own master and PhD student. They get stuck on chapter 1. But let me remind you that if you get stuck in chapter 1, your supervisor keep on saying, you have to redo this, you have to redo this. Don't get discouraged. At the same time you are doing chapter 1, you are actually doing chapter 2. So materials that you think, this is good for chapter 2, open another folder. Okay, type your chapter 2. And while preparing for chapter 1, and you come across some methods that you think, this may be a good instrument for me to use in my own study. Open another folder, start your chapter 3. So these 3 chapters will go hand in hand. Don't just focus on chapter 1, because it will take quite some time. If you were my PhD student, I really grill you on chapter 1. It has to be correct. Okay, so that is chapter 1. I will focus on that. And the main thing that not the main thing, I focus on all. I focus on the background. I'll focus on the problem statement. In particular, since I'm an English teacher, in particular, I'll help you with the keywords. Okay, the keywords in framing that problem statement and the steps. And also I'll touch on theoretical and conceptual framework. Okay, students get mixed up. What is theoretical, what is conceptual? Do I have to include both? And I get mixed up also. To explain to students what is theoretical and what is conceptual framework, I do sometimes get confused. Okay, so to me, as long as you have a framework, but you need to understand the kind of framework that is required for this chapter 1 or chapter 2, yeah, because some students included their framework, conceptual framework, they call it. But when we look at the framework, it's not conceptual framework, it's just the procedures to collect data. So, so that is out. So I'll just share with you what is a conceptual framework, what is a theoretical framework. Okay, so that is, and then I will also touch on research questions and research objectives a little bit. You know, here and there, I'll just, you know, whatever that I remember, I'll just share with you, you know, how to perhaps from the framework, you know, from the framework. The framework is very important where you can already put in your instruments. You know, you can attach for this variable, I want to use this instrument, so it'll be easier to look at. Yeah, so that is the learning objectives. A lot. Yeah, basically I'll touch on all elements on chapter 1, almost all. Okay, okay, this is my book. I'm not trying to make sales, yeah, but it's going to help you to have something in your hand. This book I wrote specifically actually for my own PhD and master student. When I find that my students keep on having problems on how to write the proposal part. The proposal part is the chapter 1, 2, 3. Once you have completed chapter 1, 2, 3, you are ready for proposal defense, or we call it candidature assessment. Once you pass that, you can go collect data. If you still stuck on chapter 1 to 3, you cannot go for your candidature assessment or proposal defense. Therefore, you cannot collect data. Because for social science, collecting data most often requires many respondents. Okay, and we do not want you to waste the respondents' time by having to redo. Or in the past, it requires money because these instruments need to be photocopied. If you have 300 respondents and you have 4 instruments, just imagine how much money you have to spend. That is why in social science, you need to make sure, and we need as the panel of the defense, yeah, as a panel, we have to make sure that your framework is ready, your instruments are good enough so that you can collect the needed data, the relevant data, the best data, so that we don't waste your time and you don't waste the time of the respondents. Okay, so when I see that my own students are struggling to write, and most of my students are Jordanians and Arab and Pakistanis. Okay, so they are not staying here in Malaysia, they are in their own country. So I find it difficult to keep on repeating the same thing, so I came up with the book. Okay, so this book is focused on the 3 chapters, on how to write the 3 chapters, on the tips on what you can do, etc. Yeah, so you can you can get the book if you want. Okay, as a it can be used as your buddy. If your supervisor is too busy, just refer to the book. Okay, this one is my advice. Okay, if this is your first semester, I really advise you to plan your work, because if you are on government scholarship, you have only for masters, I think 2 years. For PhD is 3 years. Yeah, so you need to really plan your work. And since we don't want to waste money and we don't want to waste time, how do you plan your work? You need to make sure that you put in 8 hours. If it is a full-time study, yeah, you need to put in 8 hours a day. Well, if you feel that 8 hours is too much, okay, go ahead and put in 5 to 8 hours a day. Okay, you can really plan ahead. Yeah, for example, what will you do tomorrow? Tomorrow, for 3 days, I'll just download materials. Okay, I'll do my library research. So you can do that. Okay, or you can say, okay, today or tomorrow, plan your work. Say tomorrow this is what I'll do before you sleep at night. Yeah, tomorrow I'll look for policies, government policies. I look for anything that is related that could back up um, the reason why I'm doing this research, government policies, some circular, some something that has to do with framing your research problem. Okay, so I need to get at least 10 tomorrow. So the next day, you have to just do that and put it in a folder. Okay, um, for example, you plan 3 days for library research. So that 3 days you spend your time to do that. You cannot hop from one activity to another because that will tire you and you will lose your direction. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to do that. Okay. So if you plan ahead, you say, okay, I'm for 2 days, I'm going to download materials for what? Okay, and then that 2 days you download. Okay, and then the next 2 days I'm just going to read and understand and make notes. Do that. Okay, the next day, what you do? Okay, today or tomorrow, for the next 3 days, I just download materials or variables or factors that is going to help me with the literature review, for example. I'm going to look for instruments. Okay, so just plan every day and put it in a folder that you name it clearly so that you know where to go when you write your chapter 1 or chapter 2 or chapter 3. Okay, so that is plan your work. You can have a cheat day. You can have, okay, Friday or Saturday is my break. I'm not going to work. Go ahead and do that. Okay, but once you have a plan, you get into that routine. Okay, the next thing is that this is your thesis, master's or PhD. This is your masterpiece. Okay, so I always advise students to write it beautifully, whether you are writing it in English or you are writing in Malay or you are writing it in Indonesian. Okay, write it beautifully so that the readers understand, because at the end of the day, at the end of your journey, this thesis will sit in the library, will be referred to by other students. So if you write it just to write it and get it done, one is going to make it difficult for the examiner to read, and as a reference is going to be difficult for the future students to refer to. Okay, so write it beautifully. I mean, we're not saying that you have to use all these adjectives or write it beautifully. That means write it convincingly using the correct words. um, don't write a lot of ideas. Don't put a lot of ideas onto one sentence. Okay, break it up. Let the readers take a uh, uh, pause and stop. Okay, take a breath when they are reading. Okay, instead of writing all these ideas on one sentence. I have, just last week I was reading my own PhD students write up. Okay, he is so excited to explain, and he explained a lot of things in one sentence, and it goes until 4 lines. And I was having a very difficult time breathing just to get to the end of the sentence. So it's not good. Even though you feel that you have to put everything in one sentence, you don't have to. Explain one thing at a time. Okay, design it perfectly. Design it, that means when you design the method, make sure you have looked into everything. Okay, and analyze it. My own students, two of them are now analyzing their data. I have to tell them, be critical while you're analyzing. Question your data. Okay, don't hide anything. Question your data. When you question your data, you go back to the data and find out that, yeah, so that is analysis. Okay, And then if we have a postgrad club, go ahead and join, so that you need friends to talk about your thesis. When you are stuck, they may have some ideas. When you sit with them, there will be, input that you haven't thought of. So if there is a club, join is a must. I think my own experience, postgrad club really helps me with a lot of the tips that I'll be sharing with you. Okay, a lot of these tips, it did not actually come from my own supervisor. It came from uh, the club, okay, the friends, okay, the friends who were around me then, okay. Just like, the tip on, you have to plan your work every day. You need to write something. If for that day you don't know what to write, it's good enough if you can just type your table of content. At least you get it done. Okay, this is advice from my other postgrad buddies. Even if you don't have anything else to write, type your acknowledgement at that moment. Since, writing acknowledgement still requires time. Don't waste a day unless you feel that you want to take a break. Okay. All right. Hold on, yeah. I'm checking. Okay. All right. So this one is planning your work. How do you plan? Okay, plan the activities for the first 6 months, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Okay. As I mentioned just now, these chapters are actually to be written sort of simultaneously. When you see one document, one article, you think, this is good for chapter 3. Even though you are actually planning for chapter 1. But there are time when you come across an article which, if you don't save it there, then you may not be able to get to that article later. So make sure you download and put it onto the proper files. Okay, this I have already mentioned earlier. Look for articles, read and look for more articles. You have to read many articles. If, for example, a PhD thesis requires about 200 references, you have to read actually 400 articles. Okay, another 50%, it may not be important. You may have to throw it away because it's not relevant. So read as many articles as possible. So in one day, this is the advice that I got. This is from, this is from professors, when I was doing my own thesis. Minimum of article to be read in one day, when you are reading to understand. Minimum 2 articles. Read and understand. Because some of these articles, even if you have read the whole thing, you still don't understand. You have to reread. So my advice is that you need to have a strategy to read. Read the abstract first. If you think it's important, then you go into the introduction. Maybe you don't need to read the introduction. Maybe you have to go straight to the findings. If the findings in that articles, you feel it is relevant or it's something that you can use. And also read future suggestion for future research. Read that one. Then read the suggestion for future studies. Okay. So instead of reading the whole article, some articles it run up to 18 pages. You don't have to read the whole thing. You pick and choose for the first 6 months. You have to pick and choose. And once you have come across a few articles that you really need to delve into, then spend 1 article a day. 1 article a day to understand. Okay? And then make notes. Okay, read articles on the reference list. Okay, this is another thing. When you read a specific article, for example, and they refer to they refer to a certain article. You need to go and check out the reference list and pick out that article. Another tip, okay, this just suddenly come across here. Another tip is that you need to um, read articles that are being quoted by many researchers. Many researchers, if for example, you have read 3 or 4 articles and these articles keep on citing Anderson 1981. You must read Anderson 1981. You cannot simply say, you cannot simply just get that information from a secondary information from that researcher. You must go to the source. Okay, read Anderson 1981. Everybody keeps on referring to Smith 1997. You must find that article and read that article. Smith 1997. You know why? Because examiners in your field usually know the big names in that area. For example, in reading a second language, the big names are like Goodman, Anderson, Carroll, Stanovich, and the rest. Yeah, there are quite a few names. And for metacognition, there's Flavel, okay, the Schroe. Okay, when we receive your proposal, we are going to read at the reference list. Okay, whether or not you refer to these landmark studies, whether you refer to these big names. When we see that you are just referring to local researchers and you don't go to the source, we think that you haven't done enough study. You haven't done enough reading. So you need to read the source. That is why the library has this interlibrary loan. Those articles that you cannot find on your own, ask the librarian to help. You need to read articles that are being referred to in your area. Okay? So this one I mentioned, invest 6 to 7 hours a day, and then type towards your thesis at least a page a day. That is why I said in the beginning, if you have nothing else to do and you are not in the mood to write, at least type the table of content, at least type acknowledgement, at least type something, because you cannot not do your work. If not, suddenly you realize it's already 3 years. It's already 2 years and you need an extension. Okay. Okay, this is chapters for research proposal, yeah. For PhD or master, we need 3 chapters. Okay, we need chapter 1 is introduction. What do you write for introduction? And how many pages? Yeah, it's only 15 to 25 pages. Don't write 30 pages. Don't write 40 pages for this. Basically, we don't need a very long-winded chapter 1. But chapter 1 is the key to your thesis. It's like the head car of a train. It's going to pull this long train. Okay, so if the head is not correct, the whole train will not arrive at the destination. So chapter 1 is crucial. It is the lead for your thesis. So the first thing is that the background. The background of the study that leads to the problem. This is also problematic to students to write the background. You do not want to go long-winded. Okay, you do not want to spend 10 pages on the background. Background perhaps, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 pages. But this background must lead to the problem. When we read your problem statement, we don't want to read anything new, something that you haven't mentioned in the background. Whatever that you write in the section of problem statement, it must have already been discussed, sort of. in the background. So you must touch the items that you want to write on the problem statement in your background. For introduction, okay, after background, you need statement of problem or problem statement. And then the research objectives and research questions. All these are interrelated. Even it is interrelated with the title of your thesis. Okay. That's why I say it's like a train. When we read the title of the thesis, we should be able to detect or be able to get the words from the title in your background by the second paragraph. It must already appear. So you cannot go long-winded. You must go straight into the problem. Okay? And then when you write about the problem statement or statement of problem, we can see the title there also. That means the elements in the title can be seen in the problem statement. And when you write research objectives and research questions, it's also like that. It's a continuum. Okay, it continues. It must be reflected in all of this. The title must be reflected in all of this. And then your theoretical framework. Why did I put this in red? Theoretical framework. Theoretical framework. Some theses have theoretical framework in chapter 1. Most theses, but there are also theses that put theoretical framework in chapter 2. After they have talked about the theory, you can put your theoretical framework there. So it's either chapter 1 or chapter 2 after theory. Not at the end of chapter 2, yeah? Not the end of chapter 2, after theory. So it depends, yeah, because some thesis requires a lot of explanation to explain theoretical framework or the conceptual framework. Therefore, they push it to chapter 2. Okay, but if you feel that you can insert and it's not too long, then you can put in chapter 1, because chapter 1 shouldn't be too long. We do not want chapter 1 to sound like literature review. Okay, once we read your chapter 1 and we find it is literature review, we are going to circle, push this to literature review, because we do not want you to crowd the introduction or the chapter 1 with all the literature review, unless you are actually writing about, for example, yeah, your background is on using a new method to collect data. Okay, a new method, then you can have some literature review there. Okay. Okay, so chapter 1 after theoretical framework, if you put it there, after that is significance of the study. Give 3 paragraphs, each paragraph different significance. 3 or 4 paragraphs will be good enough, yeah. 1 paragraph is not 1 page, yeah. 1 paragraph is half a page. Okay. Some students, they write 1 paragraph is like 2 pages long without a break. 1 paragraph, half a page. So significance of study, if it is 3 paragraphs, then that means 1.5 page. If you want to have 4 points, 4 different points, then 4 paragraphs. Okay. Definition of terms. Okay, definition of terms will be the terminology that you are going to use in that thesis. Okay, it may mean different thing outside your study, but in your study it means this. So you need to define. How long do you write? About 2-3 lines, not 2-3 paragraphs, not 2-3 sentences, about 2-3 lines. If that 2-3 lines is actually 1 sentence, then 1 sentence. If that 2-3 lines is actually 2 sentences, then 2 sentences. But 2-3 lines only. Very concise definition of that term. And then limitations of study. Okay. For proposal, you can write perhaps 3 limitations, but at the end of your your writing up, yeah, you may want to revisit because you came across a few things, a few obstacles that you feel that is a limitation. You can add or you can amend, okay? Because thesis writing is it doesn't stop once you have completed your 3 chapters and you start collecting data and writing. You can always go back and revise, especially your research questions. You can revise a little bit to fit the data, okay? And you can revise a bit on the significance of the study, because as you work on this, you find, this is important for whatever, then you can change, okay? You must revisit all the 3 chapters before you submit. Okay, and then we have the second chapter, literature review. Okay, to me, 45 pages would be good enough. 35 to 75 pages would be good enough, yeah. It consists of the theories that you want to use. If you don't have theory, maybe there are models. If you don't, in that area, there's no models, there's no theory, then perhaps you have to look at concepts, okay? You may feel that, hey, this is not easy to look for theory, okay? How do you look for theory? There's so many theories. The simplest way would be to look at past theses in your area. Past theses in your area will have theories that they use, and then you can tabulate it, perhaps, yeah, tabulate it. Okay, for example, this thesis use 1, 2, 3 theory, okay, and then whatever explanation. And then when you read articles, journal article, they'll refer to theories as well, so you pick up the theories from that. And for your study, what you'll do is you are going to choose the theory that is most relevant. You can have 1 theory, you can have 2 theories, you can use 3 theories. Too many, you are going to get confused, yeah? You confuse everyone, okay? Even the panel will get confused if you have too many theories, okay? Which theory is going to support which findings or which variable? So I think maximum would be 3, okay? Limit it to 3, and discuss the theories that you are going to use only, okay? Unless when you write this theory, you want to compare which one you want to make a decision, then you can discuss, and at the end of the discussion, you say, based on the discussion, based on the review that you have done, you feel that you are going to limit the study to only 3 theories or 2 theories. The discussion is okay, but mention in the thesis how many theories that you are going to choose. Okay, that is chapter 2, all work studies related to the thesis, the variables, the dependent variables, independent variables. Later I'll explain what is independent, what is dependent variables. Every study, even studies that find opposing views, you need to share. Okay, don't leave any don't leave works that is not in favor of your work. Include that. Be open with it because you want to uncover the truth. Okay, all work studies on dependent variable, all major debates, landmark studies. This is what, when I say, if many researchers are referring to Anderson 1981, you need to include that. For reading, I'm into reading in a second language and metacognition. Everybody is referring to Goodman, Smith, Stanovich. I have to read that article first hand. You cannot read second hand. Okay, and then argue well. So these are chapter 2, and then chapter 3, yeah, the design, the population, etc. This is so that you know. At the start of your study, you know how, the volume of the work that you need to do in 2 semesters, okay, before you go for your candidature assessment or proposal defense. Okay, so we are going into unit 1, which is background of study. Okay. All right. Okay, what is a background of study? It's a compilation of information that provides the readers with the context, with the context. Okay, if I were to say background, then I'm repeating the title. Yeah, uh, that provides the readers with the context to the research. Okay, it acts as a window that allows the readers to get in-depth insights to the problem. The problem is the thing that you want to do. Okay, the problem is the research that you want to address. Okay, so that is the problem. So before you come to that problem, you must provide some background. Why are you doing this problem? Why do you want to do this research? Of course, you are not doing it for fun. There must be a reason. Okay, so the background will give the readers a certain understanding to the motivation that that makes you want to do this research. Okay, so these are some, this again advice. Okay, you need for background. Yeah, we are just talking about background. This is about you can have 2 subtopics for background, 2 or 3 subtopics, yeah, for background before you reach the problem statement. Okay, you start with the big idea. Okay, the general idea, and then you narrow down. As you narrow down, you may want to have different subtopics for that. Okay, so my advice is to begin with a specific background information in relation to the research problem. Okay, it has to reflect the topic right away. For example, your first paragraph, if you want to do reading, for example, reading in a second language, that's my area, so it's easy for me to use that example. I hope you can just, you know, uh, listen to the example, and you can somehow Kate, you can somehow relate it to your own topic. Yeah, my area is reading in a second language. I find that Malaysian students have problem when they read academic texts, especially scientific texts. So that is the area that I want to do. So I cannot talk about, in the first paragraph, I cannot talk about English is the important language, is the lingua franca of the world. So English is spoken by. I cannot do that. We have to go straight into the element that you want to study. Okay, so it must reflect, yeah, the background must reflect the title of your thesis by the second paragraph, if not the first paragraph. If you can write and it reflects by the first paragraph, that's much better. But by the second paragraph, if your the idea of the title is reflected in the third paragraph, that I think is already delaying. You are delaying things. By second paragraph, the elements of your title must already appear. Okay, so it must be reflected right away. You cannot go on, and we will, as a supervisor, I call that rambling. You are rambling. You are rambling on, and I feel that you are not getting to the point. So usually supervisor will just say, why are you going on and on about this? So they start canceling. We don't want all this. Okay, go right. So for chapter 1, usually especially for the background, you will have to write and rewrite a lot of times so that you get it right, just right. Okay, this one I've already mentioned. Describe the background to convince the reader that the problem is an important one to be studied. Okay, in Malaysia, usually um, we will we will include the policies, the government policies, because that is the most relevant. Okay, what is needed now by the government? Okay, therefore, usually in the first paragraph, we will start mentioning the needs of the country. Okay, even for my own reading in a second language, reading scientific text, okay, in a second language, I started with the government aspiration in producing science and technology experts. And these science and technology experts come from these graduates. But if they can't read articles, scientific articles, published in international journals, how could our young scientists and our young graduates, or how are they going to help the nation? How will they help build the nation if they can't even read English text? So I argue from that point of view. So when you mention the need of the nation, then you feel that that's the motivation. That is convincing that your study will contribute to the needs of the nation. If that is the case, if that's not the case, you are looking into methodology, for example, then you argue it in such a way that it is to make any research. For example, you want to change the method of collecting data. For example, you want to use think aloud protocol in a certain in your area which has never been done. So you justify it by, you can use literature there. Okay. Anyway, provide credible sources. For thesis, you cannot use newspaper. Okay. If you have to use newspaper, very recent newspaper, limit it to chapter 1 and background of study. There, for chapter 1, under background study, not even problem statement, yeah. Background study, you can use newspaper. Okay, the source from the newspaper, but not many. You may just use 1, 2, or 3. The rest, the sources will be from government circulars, policy, the Malaysian plan, okay, the 11th Malaysian, so the most current. And the rest will be sources from the literature. And remember, sources from the literature, when you are trying to frame or providing context, there must be new sources. You must also have new sources to show that this is very current. The need is now. I'm not saying that you cannot use sources from the 60s or 70s or 80s. I'm not saying that, but when you are providing context, especially you are referring to government circulars, okay, it has to be, okay. Now is 11th Malaysia plan, or is it 12? Not sure. So you cannot use the 6th or the 5th Malaysia plan. So you have to use the most current. Even newspaper, if you want to use, and you can just use under background, okay, current, to show this is very relevant. You know why? Because if you are doing PhD, this is going to run for 3 years, 4 years, and you are going to stick to that source. So just imagine, yeah, if you use ancient one, it'll be more ancient at the end of your thesis when you submit, at the end of your study when you submit your thesis. Okay, best if you could provide figures and statistics. If you can find figures, statistics, percentages, to show, to back up the motivation for you to do this, then it'd be good. Okay, highlight the problem faced by the target population. Okay, target population, you need to know who are your target population. For example, if your target population is undergraduates. So all this background must be about people in that age range. Undergraduate, what age? 19, 20, 21, in that age range. Okay. If your target population is primary school kids, so you must focus your sources that talks about this population, whether is the government circular, whether it is the policy, whether it is the newspaper. If you want to include under background, it has to be about this target population. Okay. Make sure you highlight and describe all the important variables in this section. Okay. So in the beginning, you may not know. That is why I say when we do this chapter 1, you are actually doing chapter 2 and chapter 3 as well. Okay, as you're doing it, you will recognize the variables that you want to use. Okay, variables is the word used for research. You know, a layman term will be the factors. Okay, layman terms will be factors. In research, we call it variables. Okay, so by the end of the section on background, you will already have discussed the key variables. Okay, the key variables in your own study, which you are going to carry forward into the problem statement. So when you talk about these variables in the problem statement, it's nothing new. You cannot add new things there, meaning new variables there. Okay. So this is the picture. Okay, I'm trying to make this abstract layout of a background into a diagram. Okay, so a background is like this. It starts with a very general information, but it's actually specific to the area. For example, yeah, the nation's need. This one is the thing that I talk about. Yeah, the research that my own research. Yeah, it's easy to use my own research as example. Okay, I wanted to do reading comprehension among among undergraduates. Okay, reading English, reading scientific text in English. Okay, among undergraduates. Okay, so I argue from the point of the needs of the nation that requires for skilled workforce. Okay, skilled workforce meaning, later on they're going to be scientists, they're going to be engineers, they're going to build the nation. And for them to be knowledgeable, they need to be reading all the time and reading articles. For example, doctors nowadays, they need to be reading scientific articles. Okay, and these scientific articles are in English. And from what the newspaper reports and what research reports, our students are very weak with, reading scientific texts are problematic to them. Okay, so we argue from that point and then make it, narrow it down to the variables. If you can see, yeah, the first one is nation's needs for skilled workforce and the English language competency. Okay, the government are doing a lot of things, English and science science and technology in English, and then they have a lot of things going on with the government movement or the government circular or policy in order to make Malaysian youth become proficient in science and technology, and at the same time in English. Okay, they are doing a lot of things, but research still finds that they can't read. Okay, reading scientific text is problematic. So you describe from that point. Okay, and then you narrow it down until you reach just mentioning the variables. Okay, so I drew a line there, yeah, the dotted line, yeah. So those above the dotted line, yeah, those are local needs. The need of the country, for example. I say local need because when my own students from Saudi or from Jordan, they write this, okay, they write in the context of Saudi. Okay, the Saudi governments are doing whatever that they need to do in order to make sure that the students, are proficient, etc., in building the country. So the local needs. Okay, and slowly you are going to turn that factors into variables. You're going to pick out what is the problem with with the students not being able to read. Okay, then you uh, um, the uh, the points below the dotted line, they starts to reflect the academia needs. That means the needs in research. These are the variables. Okay, they are not being able to read scientific texts, can be contributed to the English language proficiency. Maybe it's about their thinking. They are not their critical thinking, or their thinking about thinking is not mature enough, or they lack science knowledge. That's why they cannot read the scientific text. Okay, and then we argue from that point. So these are all background, the background of the research. We haven't come to the problem statement yet, but we need to narrow down all these ideas. Okay, so that you are preparing the readers with the variables needed for problem statement. I'll give you another example. So this one is, okay, it is too big. Can you see? Okay, it's too big. I think you can't see the top, yeah? Hold on, yeah? Okay. Okay, so this one is human resource management and productivity. This is just an example. If you are in the social science or in the management field, yeah. So what you wanted to do is on patient satisfaction of the strategic human resource management. Okay, that's what, for example, the thesis is about. You want to know at the hospitals whether they are the patients are satisfied with whatever that the management are doing for them. Okay, so that is the study. Okay, so instead of going straight into that, we need to have an opening about human resource management and productivity. Okay, by the second paragraph, you already need to mention about healthcare, since it's patients. You need to already mention healthcare or something on human resource. Okay, no, sorry. So you actually, by this first paragraph, you have already mentioned something in your title. That is human resource, because that is what you wanted to do. The red one, that is what you wanted to do, yeah? So you have already start mentioning it, uh, uh, the idea from your title. Human resource is that. Okay, and then you go ahead and explain a little bit. And then you mention healthcare, because that is what you wanted to do. So the way you explain the background is from the general, and you narrow it down to reflect exactly what you want to do in the research. So the research is about healthcare. The research is about human resource management practices. The research is about the satisfaction. So it must, the way you write, it has to slowly, gradually guide the readers from the big idea of human resource management to satisfaction, to healthcare, to the variables. Okay, so it is slowly unfolding. Okay, the way you write, you are unfolding the variables, the factors in your research. Okay, with without going on and on about other things that are not relevant. It has to be narrowed down. Okay, so we haven't touched on problem statement, yeah? So just be, so you need to understand, we haven't even touched problem statement. This is still on background. This is another example, okay? So the general, what you have to write in conclusion, yeah, of under background, yeah? The general phenomenon in that area that you want to not even feel in that area, in that specific area. You can also include the country's need, the nation's need. Okay, and then go specific on policies, on some circular, on some new procedures or something. Okay, that is established and well known. And then go into the organization, the system, and then, okay, those are the one, those above the dotted line, those are the layman's term, what the country needs, okay? And once you reach the factors and the variables, okay, that is the research needs, because you are already narrow it down. So the surface level is what the layman can understand. Below that, those are the variables that hold the key to this behavior. Okay, if you want to look at the behavior of reading just now, yeah, when I was saying about reading among students, why are they not being able to read? So that is what laymen ask. But if you go down a level, okay, you will see the roots of the problem. The roots will be the variables that are controlling the behavior of not being able to read. Okay, so you need to get down to the variables. Okay, in this case, yeah, the dissatisfaction of the patient. Okay, they are not satisfied. That is just the surface. So we have to look down under the surface. What is the root of the dissatisfaction? What are the variables that make a patient satisfied? So we look underneath. So when we look underneath, that is the academia needs. Looking at the problem, looking at the independent variable and dependent variable, which I'll explain after this. Okay, now we come to the problem statement. What is problem statement? Okay, it is the DNA of the research. It's a snapshot of the research, is the foundation, is the heart, is the taste, is the blueprint of the study. That is why with my own student, I will make sure that they get their problem statement correct before they start collecting data. Even, to write the research objectives and the research questions, you need to get the problem statement ready. But yeah, what you can do, this is just tips, yeah. You can construct your research questions first. What is it that you want to know about this area? You can construct your research questions. Based on your reading, yeah, you cannot simply construct without referring to literature. So you construct your questions, and then you back up, and then do your objective. And then from this objective, perhaps you can come up with 3 or 4 paragraph of problem statement. You can do that also, to make sure that problem statement, research objectives, and research questions are all aligned. Okay, because we understand that to write a very good problem statement is not easy, but you have to do that in order for you to be able to create a very good research questions. A very good research question will help you design or look for good instruments to answer the question. Okay. So again, yeah, these are from people, yeah. These are from um, articles, yeah. Is the heart of a dissertation or heart of a thesis, yeah. It's a problem statement. It's a place where most committee members go first to understand and assess the merits of a proposal. Okay, when I read thesis, a proposal, yeah, when it comes to me, first I read the problem statement. Okay, when I read the problem statement, I can see that a student are getting it. Okay, I also read the reference list to see whether you are reading people in the area. Okay, in your field, yeah. After reading the problem statement, the reader will know why you're doing it, so we don't say, so what? Okay, why are you doing this? Okay. And another thing that I like to share is that your problem statement must be about the phenomena. Okay, it's not about Jordanian student anymore. Okay, because my students, when they write, it's all about the problem statement is all about Jordanian student or the Saudi student. It's not about them anymore. You write about the local context, the Malaysian students or the Jordanian student or the Saudi students. You write this under background. Okay, and when you write problem statement, is about the phenomena which will be also useful for people from other countries, people who are doing this research from other countries. So if your problem statement keep on referring to Malaysian students, then people from Taiwan or people from Japan will not be able to say that this is something that is relevant to them. Okay, so your problem statement must be about the phenomena in patient satisfaction, the phenomena about the reading problems among second language learners. Okay, it has to be about the phenomena, okay, which may have been overlooked by previous researchers. Okay, so this again tips for research problem. What you are doing is you are identifying research gaps. What are research gaps? Research gaps are a cavity or a hole or an area which has no information or lack of information about a certain issue. That's a gap. Okay. So for problem statement, for postgrad thesis, master and PhD, you need two types of gaps. One is theoretical gaps. Another one is literature gaps. Theoretical gaps are gaps in the theory. It doesn't have to be a big gap. It can be a small gap, but a gap nevertheless in theory. So you are extending the theory just by an inch. That's good enough. Okay. Another one is literature gap. Literature gap is not that difficult. Literature gap is something that hasn't been studied. For example, you want to do okay, for example, you want to do job satisfaction. Okay, it seems that job satisfaction has been done a lot among nurses, among patients in the health sector. Okay, in the health sector, healthcare sector, yeah. Job satisfaction is very popular in health sector, but you want to do in a different sector. Okay, so that is literature gap. It seems that job satisfaction has been done in the health sector and also in tourism and hospitality. But you want to do in a different area, in journalism, for example, or among editors, for example. So if it hasn't been done, then that is a literature gap. Okay, so you can do that. So under problem statement, we just need about 4 or 5 paragraphs. Again, one paragraph is not 1 page. It's not 2 pages. One paragraph is half a page. So if we say your problem statement should consist of 5 paragraphs, that means it's about 2.5 pages only. Okay, so why is it 5 paragraphs? It can be 4 or 5 paragraphs, yeah? So 5 paragraphs, the first paragraph can be an introduction. If you do not want to have an introduction for that paragraph, so that the first paragraph should be the first gap. Okay, the first gap that you want to fill, the first variable. Okay, the first gap. And then you talk about the first gap. And then the second paragraph is the second gap. Okay, the third paragraph is the third gap, fourth paragraph, the fourth. So you have 4 gaps. And the last paragraph can be the summary. If you do not want summary, you just want to leave it like that, fine, then you have 4 paragraphs. Each paragraph caters to 1 gap, 1 different gaps, yeah? And from these 4 gaps, from these 4 paragraphs, you are going to have 4 research objectives. And from these 4 research objectives, you will have 4 research questions. 4 paragraph for problem statement, which caters to 4 different gaps. And then when you write your objective, you have 4 different objectives catering to the research gaps. And then 4 objectives, you have 4 research questions catering to the 4. So it should be in line, aligned. Okay, so around 2.5 pages only. If you are writing 7 pages, that is not research gaps, you are writing literature review. Okay, we do not want literature review in your gaps. Okay. Okay, sorry. This is the same thing, yeah? 4 to 5, this is the same thing. Okay. All right. This one, because I want to show this, yeah, that's why I have this another one, this other thing, yeah. So remember, yeah, the red triangle, that one is from the background. So that means, yeah, in the background, you already have mentioned some of the elements, not some, all of the variables, okay, in the last paragraph or the 2 last paragraph you have already mentioned. And then once you go to research problem, paragraph 1 will cater to the first gap. So work performance and patient satisfaction. Paragraph 2, work performance and strategic human resource management practices, just like in that triangle, yeah. And third paragraph, work performance and employees' attitude. Paragraph 4, work performance and appraisal. And last paragraph, summary. If you want to put summary, it would be good to put so that you can tie everything up. So that's 5 paragraphs, maximum 3 pages. Yeah, you know, sometimes, you know, when you write 1 paragraph, it's not really exactly half a page. It's more than half. Then that's why you can extend a bit to 3 pages. More than 3 pages, you are rambling. Okay, you are rambling, so you need to reduce. Okay, are you all okay? I see no question in the chat, no question here. Are you still with me?
Yeah.
Still with me, yeah? All right. Okay, thank you. Okay. Check. Okay, still with me. Thank you very much. Okay, so we move on to problem statement. Still problem statement, yeah? So what are research gaps? Okay, it's a break or hole in an object or between object, yeah? It's a cavity, yeah? So it's the unknown. So there are 2. So I keep on repeating, yeah, because as I prepare my slide, you know, As I prepare my slide, I get new ideas and I write more. I think it's good. You know, when we repeat, you know, it gets drummed into our mind. Yeah. So research gap and theoretical gap for PhD is very important to have theoretical gap. Okay, even for master, but you know, we can still excuse you. But for PhD, if you don't have theoretical gap, there's not a PhD. Okay, you must find theoretical gap. Okay, so how do you do this? Okay, the gap is looking at what is lacking in the area. Okay, so usually you find this from articles. Read recent articles. 2021 articles if you must. 2020 articles if you must. Read recent articles. Go straight to the end of the article that say suggestion for future studies. There you will find, you know, usually these big names, they will suggest what else that need to be done in this area. Okay, and this is what you need. You need their suggestion here to be put as citation in your problem statement for that gap. Okay, so my advice would be read most recent articles and look for or read the last part, yeah, suggestion for future research. That is why at the beginning of this slide, yeah, I say this is a research that address formalized curiosity or something like that. It's formal. We cannot simply have in our head, we want to do this. The reason because my student is like this and my student is like that. Because people are like this, and we cannot simply base it on whatever that we have in our mind, because people may have already thought about it just like you did, and they have already done something about it. So you do not want to redo what people have done, because panel reviewers or panel examiners, we usually will check all this, because we receive your proposal 2 weeks. We have at least 2 weeks to read. So I usually go to Google Scholar to find out if this has been done. If you say it hasn't been done, then I say, wow, it has been done since 1975. Okay, so the way you word for that problem statement, yeah, you need to really identify what is lacking in that area. Okay, because we do check. Why do we check? Because at the stage of proposal defense, as examiners at the university, we want to help you. We want to make sure that whatever you are doing will still stand by the time you submit your thesis for Viva. Because for Viva, it's no longer, your examiner will be people from outside the country. For masters, it will be from different university. So we do not want, when you reach that stage, they say, this has been done. Look at this article. Then what are we going to do about it? Okay, do you have to collect data again? Will they award you Master of Philosophy instead of Doctor of Philosophy? Okay, so we do not want that to happen. That is why for proposal defense, usually examiners will check, help check, and then what look into this area has been researched. Okay, so okay, the gap can, okay, some researchers reported the finding is positive, okay, significant. A few other researchers found is insignificant. Then it can also be your gap. Since there is no decision, you are going to test it again to find what is the problem. Okay, maybe because of the instrument, maybe because of the age group, maybe because of whatever reasons which you will study. So missing piece or pieces in the literature. Okay, for example, like I mentioned just now, it has been done among healthcare workers, but it hasn't been done among journalists in journalism for job satisfaction. So you want to research. It has been done in this among this field, but not that. It has been done, for example, reading. Yeah, it has been reading problems have been done with text on expository narratives. Okay, but not scientific text. Okay, so that is a gap. Okay, has not yet been explored, underexplored. Has not yet been explored, is a bit risky. You are saying that nobody has done this before, I'm the first to do. So you need to choose your word correctly. You can say that it has there has only been little research on this. Okay, few research, not little, few research on this. So it's not enough. Therefore, you are going to add to that literature. Okay. Research has been done. Okay, this literature gap. Yeah, research has been done in many areas, but then the size is too small. So your research is going to be big, or it has been done mainly using quantitative approach, but not qualitative. They are not looking in depth. I'm going to do that. So that is literature gap. Okay, location can also be it. It has been done among the Arab countries, but it hasn't been done among that. You can have one like that. It has been done in almost in the Western countries, but not in Malaysia. You can have at least one like that, especially for master. For PhD is a bit risky. Try use a more solid gap. For literature gap, if you want to use, it has been done in other countries, but not in Malaysia. That one for master, okay. For PhD, I hope you can use a better, a stronger gap. Okay, a research method. Okay, that one I've already mentioned. Yeah, using quanti and quali. Yeah. Or usually for this research, they are not using single protocol. You want to add Tingala protocol there, perhaps you can do that. Okay. So what you have to do is you need to do a thorough review. You really have to comb the library. Okay. That is why in my book, yeah, the book that I prepared, um, I had a student sitting on the library floor. That's what I did when I was doing. Yeah, I was practically taking down all the journals and comb each page, flip every page. I don't want to miss any articles from the most recent to the ancient. Okay, we want to include, because when you do this, you not necessarily are going to use all. You're going to throw away some, but make sure that you comb through. Okay, you look at every piece of information. That is PhD. That is why you have no time to waste. If you are doing full time, you need to go into your office at your home full time, 8 hours. Okay. If you have to dress up at home, okay, dress up so that you feel like you are doing a full time job. Okay. Okay, a literature gap. So I'm going to give you a sample, yeah, of literature gap. This one I just Google on job satisfaction. I try to not use my area too much. Yeah, my area is applied linguistic, second language reading and metacognition. Yeah, I try not to use too much of that because you may find it difficult to relate because if you are not in that field. Yeah, so I try to choose something that is general. Job satisfaction can be applicable to many areas. Yeah, job satisfaction is applicable to teachers, to healthcare workers, to bankers, to to journalists, to to all sorts of it. That's why I choose this one. Okay, this one is just a very quick Google. Yeah, I went to Google Scholar. Yeah, very quick research. And if you see, yeah, okay, and if you see, yeah, in this Google search, yeah, or this my very quick library research, if you can see, yeah, job satisfaction are always done among healthcare workers. The first one, hospital, nurses. The second one, physician, doctors again. The third one, you can see nurses. So if you, for example, yeah, there's one candidate wanting to do job satisfaction, it has been done. Okay, it has been done. So if that person is a nurse and she or he wants to do job satisfaction, she needs to look at perhaps the sample size, the sample age, perhaps nurses' age, the young nurses, or is it the very experienced nurses? And this person needs to look at what hasn't been done on job satisfaction among nurses. Which loophole that I want to fill. Okay, even though it has been done among nurses, you can still go into it and find in what area that the literature hasn't filled in. Okay, maybe nurses always the ladies, the female nurses. I want to do the male nurses. Okay, maybe. Okay, I just want to look at the male nurses. Okay, that is another literature gap. Okay, so I show you another one. So if you look at this one, okay, again, mental health. This one, so healthcare. This one is also healthcare. What I want to show to you, this one, yeah. Okay, somebody suddenly say, everybody seems to be doing on healthcare. So my gap will be on job satisfaction among hotel industry or tourism. Okay, so that is my gap. So that is literature gap. It's not theoretical gap, it's literature gap because it's still in job satisfaction. The field is that, but you are looking at different industry or different variable. Okay, but this is literature gap. Okay, another one. Okay, this one is still nurses. Yeah, this nurses. So nurses. So I want to do in tourism. That is a gap, but literature gap. Okay. I want to show you another one. Last night, yeah, while I was doing this, I just tried to Google job satisfaction among editors. Editors of books, editors of magazine, editors of articles. Okay, because editing work is not easy. It's really demanding. So I want to see whether there is a research on job satisfaction on editors. I couldn't find. So far, I couldn't find. I Googled a few. But if I type journalism or journalist, I could. But editors, I can't find. You can try. So that is literature gap. If you want to do job satisfaction among editors, it is literature gap. It's not yet a theoretical gap. Okay. Okay, what is theoretical gap? Theoretical gap is an area for which a theory falls short. That means theory cannot explain a certain thing. A very simple example, yeah, because our gap in theory, it doesn't have to be too big. It can just be an inch or 1 centimeter. For example, yeah, in motivation. For motivation, there is this intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. People have been doing this. Even the inconsistent finding whether is extrinsic or intrinsic motivation contributes to, for example, reading. Even the consistency of the finding, whether it's extrinsic or intrinsic motivation, contribute to reading, that can still be considered theoretical gap. because it is questioning the theory. Is questioning the theory, because some research says that it's extrinsic because whatever, and theory say there's two, and theory say extrinsic because of outside factor, intrinsic inside, but the finding is not conclusive. So you are actually questioning the theory. When you question the theory, that is theoretical gap. Okay. There are conflicting results, yeah. I just have managed, when I Google, I just managed to find something here, yeah. If you look at the first screenshot, yeah, I'm going to read a little bit, yeah. Despite the apparent efficacy of the theory in explaining why individuals become unhappy with themselves and by implication their jobs, the cognitive theory of depression has not been tested. Okay, has not been, that means they are questioning the theory as a potential explanatory factor in etc. So when they question the theory, that is theoretical gap. Because if researchers keep on using the two-factor theory for job satisfaction, but they are overlooking this other theory, so that is theoretical gap. You are adding another theory to the to this research area. Okay, and this one, yeah, Pearson. Let me see. I can't read. Okay. Pearson organization fit and turnover intention, exploring the mediating role of employee fellowship. So this has to do with I think the theory, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. All right. So theoretical gap. Okay. If you want to use that example, if not, sometimes it looks like it may look like a literature gap there. But anyway, I think you understand, yeah, theoretical gap. Okay, let me just check your chat. Okay, nothing else, nothing yet, yeah. All right. So these are keywords, yeah. You need to take this down. I'm not sure whether it is in the participant copy, yeah. But take this down. These are the words when I am the panel reviewer for proposal defense, yeah. I'm looking for these words. Okay. This dearth of research, that means lack of research in this area. Okay. And that is one. Another one, yeah. The keywords, yeah. We're talking about keywords in problem statements, yeah. This signal problem statement, usually when I read this sentence, I will tell my student problem statement very clear. It's like jumping out of the page and telling me this is problem statement. How do I know that the problem statement written by the student jumps out? These keywords tells me it's a problem statement. Okay. Most recently, Bailey Kirtland concluded after reviewing telecommunication literature that the empirical evidence linking telecommunication to job satisfaction is unclear. Therefore, they need to do something. Okay. And Cooper called for future research. Therefore, I'm doing it. You don't have to write, therefore, I'm doing the research. We understand that the call for that future research is there. And we know you are going to do it now. You don't have to say, therefore, I'm going to do it. You don't have to write that. Okay. Another one, yeah. This one is the same one as just now. The cognitive theory of differentiation has not been tested. Okay. But using the negative no is a bit risky. It has not been tested, meaning nobody has ever done this before. So it's a bit risky. So you need to cushion it a little bit. Okay, you cannot claim unless you are very sure you have really done your reading and you have combed through the literature and you say that has never been done, then you can write. If not, you can say, dearth of research, or you can say, um, or, you, even the lack of research is a bit risky. That means no research. So it's still unclear. Okay, it's unclear. It's a bit, you cushion it a little bit, yeah, because you're not sure. Okay. But there has been the next one, but there has been little synthesis of the job. Okay. Something like that. Okay. Synthesis is like, you're compiling all the research done in that area. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Relatively few. Relatively few. You are using this word, yeah, to hint that there's not much. Because you do not want to say there's no research at all, because it's too risky. Okay, most research analyzes the influence of certain job characteristics on job satisfaction. This research considers job satisfaction result. So most research are doing this. I am going to look at this one since it hasn't, you can't find research, or little research has been done on it. Okay, job satisfaction research so far has not assessed effective or motivational properties of whatever. Therefore, it is not known how. So these are the words. So you can compile all these words. Yeah, choose whichever that you can use in your own problem statement. I will give a few more, or I will be using a few more of this expression in the sample problem statement after this. Okay. So these are keywords that you must not miss. You must have that. But if you are writing your thesis in Malay, I'm not very sure the words used. Yeah, I need to do my own research on that. On what are the keywords in Malay for problem statement, to signal problem statement. Yeah. Okay, this is composing problem statement. Okay, many students, I cannot just say some, many students have problem in composing problem statements, and when I read very quickly, I'll know this is not the problem statement. It is too long-winded, is not hitting the point. You must hit the point straight away. Yeah. So how do you do this? I'll give example. Yeah. There are just 3 steps. 3 steps, and you can write in 3 sentences. If you don't want to write 3 sentences, go ahead and write 4 or 5 sentences, but don't write 20 sentences. It's too long. Okay, this one is very short. I can lengthen it a little bit. Yeah, I can put 2 sentences for the black font, another 2 sentences for the blue font, but for the red font, that should be enough. 1 sentence is enough. Okay, so this is a 3-step strategy on writing or composing problem statement. The first one, what is known? What are other researchers claiming about the issue or the problem? What is known? Okay, metacognition has been found to be very significant in reading scientific texts among native speakers. And then you have citation to show the studies done by other researchers that say metacognition is significant in reading. You put 2 or 4 or 5 citations. And then you need an opposing view, or the inconsistent finding, or something that is of the opposite. Okay. Research findings indicate that Malaysian students do possess a certain level of metacognitive awareness, and it is a determinant of their scientific achievement. Okay, so this one, that's why I say, yeah, if you want to use Malaysian, you can just use one. This one, only one. Okay. Okay. Research indicates that Malaysian students do possess a certain level of awareness, and it is a determinant, or this is a contributing factor to the academic achievement. This is inconsistent finding, yeah. Yet there is lack of formal inquiry on the metacognition level of L2 readers. This is one. It's not very strong. Let me show you another one. Let me show you another one, yeah. Okay, this is only 2 steps. Okay, we have 3 steps. We have 2 steps. There are many combinations. Okay, first, the researchers claim, the claim by previous researchers. Comprehension strategies, in particular cognitive metacognitive strategies, have been shown to be very significant. Okay, so the first is what is known. People say this is already significant. Okay, to be very significant in improving reading comprehension of narrative, etc. However, okay, we need the opposite. Yet, however, you need to have that to show opposing views, opposing findings, or inconsistency. However, there is still a dearth of research that looks into how second language learners read scientific texts. Even though, the first one, even though people say this is significant, but not many research are done on this, on non-native speakers. Okay, the opposing views. You can go back and read so that you can really see the opposite. One, everybody is claiming, not everybody, many people are claiming it, but why can't I find on this? Therefore, I'm going to do it. Okay, insufficient evidence. Let me show you another one. This one is quite long-winded, but I think is a very good problem statement. Okay, peer assessment has been tried out in many English language classes, and some found it helpful. Hold on, hold on, I need to. Okay, we are doing this at home, and at home there are other noise. Okay, I hope my son will not make too much noise. Yeah, sorry. All right. Okay. So again, this lecture again. Peer assessment has been tried out in many English classes. Some found it helpful, so I have all this citation. Not I, this is my student, yeah, my PhD student. Okay, some found it helpful, while others found that it gives only a little impact. So you can see, what he is trying to do is he's trying to say that peer assessment, even though many have tried it out, some say helpful, some say it's not really giving a lot of impact. Inconsistent finding. While the impact of peer assessment strategy on student achievement process has been widely acknowledged, again, okay, he's using this again, okay, while it is acknowledged, there are concerns as to whether students have the ability to accurately judge the work of peers. So there are 2 issues here. Okay, some found it is helpful, some say little impact. Some say this is a good strategy for student achievement process, but some say can students with a very low English proficiency judge the work of others? So there's no answer to this. When there's no answer, you are going to do the research. However, to determine whether peers can assess one another's written works depends mostly on the peer's own L2 proficiency or English language proficiency. So to be peer assessor of an English language essay, one must possess a certain level. To date, there is yet to be a study. Instead of saying there is no study, we say there is yet to be a study on peer assessment that looks into the required threshold level of English language competency to make an EFL learners a modest peer assessor. What this is saying is that many researchers are saying peer assessment is a good way to help students improve. But as second language learners, do you think that those with low proficiency can assess? So no studies so far they haven't done a study on the threshold level or the level that an English like a second language learners can become an assessor. If you get band 1 or band 2, okay, or you get a D for your English paper, can you assess your friend's work? So that is the question, and it hasn't been studied. Therefore, this researcher is studying. So the punchline, yet there is yet to be a study. Okay, so the argument, it doesn't have to be long. This is actually just one paragraph. Okay, how many sentences? Not many sentences. So you don't need one page to convince the panel to show there is a problem. By using the correct keywords, by having what has been done and what hasn't been done, or what has been done and what are they confused about. That's all. 3 steps. This one more than 3, but basically is 3 steps. What is known and accepted, what is not known. Therefore, the line says, I'm going to do it. Okay, but don't say I am going to do it. Say there is yet to be a study. There is few studies. There is little understanding on how this works. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, I think another. Okay, I have theoretical gap. Okay, this is theoretical gap. Okay. Okay, wait, let me check. Chat, okay, nothing yet. Okay, this is theoretical gap. Second language researchers claim that English proficiency is instrumental. That means is the tool, is very important, very significant in the successful comprehension of a scientific text. Sorry, this is my problem statement, yeah. Okay, so most researchers claim like this: if you have English language proficiency, then you are going to be successful in comprehending scientific texts. Yet, okay, inconsistent. Yet, contradictory results have been found where low English proficiency readers manage to score highly when they are reading domain-specific academic texts due to the prior knowledge they possess. Okay, so what we are saying is that, for example, students, Japanese students, they learn science. They already learn science in high school in Japanese. And then they go to a university in the US and they have to read this scientific text. Their English is not very good, but they still understand the scientific text because it's science. They use the prior knowledge that they learn from high school, where they learn biology, for example, in Japanese. So when they read this text, scientific text, highly scientific text on biology in English, they still manage to understand, but their English is not very good. Okay, when they read storybooks or narrative text, they score very low. So that is inconsistent finding, because theory say you need English language proficiency to read English text, but we have contradictory findings from a few research, especially on scientific texts. So it's important that we look into this to see where does language proficiency stand, for example. Okay. Okay, this one, the interactive compensatory reading model. So this is a model, is part of a reading theory. Is an ideal hypothesis to conceptualize second language reading. However, there's a lack of evidence to explain the phenomena the phenomena of this compensatory. Compensatory, that means, you know, you compensate. Your second language, your English language is not proficient enough. But how does this Japanese student compensate her lack of English proficiency with her prior knowledge in trying to understand the text? So how is the compensation occur? So trying to understand this phenomena, this model or this theory. So this is the gap in theory, questioning the theory. Even though theory say there is a compensation compensation thing going on, but the theory doesn't explain how it's going on. So I'm going to look into this and try to understand how it's going on. So I'm contributing to theory. Are you all okay? Okay.
Okay.
All right. I hope, yeah. I hope so, yeah. Because remember, yeah, you do not have to come up with a big element on the theory. Just an inch, okay, just an inch or just 1 centimeter of that theory that you try to shed light into. That's good enough, but you must have, okay? Okay, all right. Okay, so this one is another one. I think this is the last one on theoretical gap, yeah? This is my Saudi students, yeah, who are doing this. Cultural schema. Cultural schema is prior knowledge or background knowledge. When you read something, you try to associate what you read with what you know. For example, what, yeah? Let's not give an example because it's not easy to come. Okay. Schema is prior knowledge or your background knowledge. When you read something, it's easy for you to understand. For example, biology. For me, an English teacher, when I read biology text, it's very difficult for me to understand because there are words that I don't understand. But if you have the prior knowledge, you have the schema, or you have the background knowledge on that element or that biology thing, it's easy for you to understand because of the thing. So cultural schema about culture, the culture. Okay, you understand a culture, you understand that culture. So when you read the text about that culture, is very easy. Okay, so the background knowledge about culture. So culture schemas are patterns of schemas which are consciously or unconsciously acquired and shared by community that facilitate meaning construction. So you have this background knowledge on culture. So this student, he's talking about the Arab culture. Okay, so Arab student or Saudi students, they have this pattern in their head about culture. For example, driving only for men, not women. Okay, police only men, not women. Okay, there are things that women do, there are things that men do. Okay, so that is their cultural schema, yeah? It's in their head, the pattern in their head is fixed there. So when they read an article written by Arab writers, they understand it because the Arab writers will sorry, yeah, the noise from the background, yeah. Okay, when they are reading
It doesn't bother us.
articles written by Arab authors will use the same cultural schema as the Arab student. Okay, so everything is dandy, everything is easy, they can construct meaning. Okay, but okay, if you see, but this Saudi student, yeah, when they read English text, they find it difficult because English texts are written by Americans or British. And American and British, they write according to their culture. Women drive. Okay, women drive, men are policemen, women can also become policemen. Okay, and women also go watch football. So when they start writing like that, and this Saudi student has to read this text, they don't understand. Why? Because in their culture, women don't drive, and they don't understand why in this text this girl is driving, and they don't. It's very difficult for them to understand because it's not in their culture. So that's why this student wants to study. So a recent research conducted by Al-Ghamdi in Saudi contends that English textbooks written by Western writers embedded with Western cultural schema may obstruct EFL learners' reading comprehension if it goes against the learner's native cultural norms. Okay? So hence, there is a need for an empirical evidence to determine the impact of having opposing culture schemata between the text and the reader on reading comprehension. So this is theory actually. Okay, it is a theory to see whether culture schema really impact reading comprehension. Okay, so so this is an example. Okay, so the way how you compose, 3 steps. What researchers claims, what are the inconsistent findings, and then that one sentence. There is a need for, there is lack of evidence, or there's only a little, or only a few research on it. Okay, there's a dearth of research. It is unclear. So these words will actually tells the readers that this is problem statement. That's why when students write like this, I say your problem statement jumps out of the page. It's very clear. Straight away, I'm bombarded with this. Okay. 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 I don't know what I did, but I think I have punch a button on annotation. Yeah. I think it doesn't matter. Okay, so these are the ways to compose problem statement. Oh, oh no, I cannot move this. What happened? Press annotation button. Okay, press this one. Is it? Oh no, this one.
At the top, Dr. Samsiah,
At the top.
you just hover your cursor at the top,
yeah,
and then it will come down.
Okay, dah. All right. Thank you, Sharon.
Baik Sharon ada. I pun tak tahu nak buat macam mana.
Okay. So I hope I can move on. Tak boleh juga move on. Okay. All right. Alhamdulillah. All right. So that is on how to compose problem statement. It is very clear. There are only 3 steps. Yeah. You can go up to 4 steps, like I mentioned in the other slide. Yeah. But the easiest is these 3 steps. Okay, now I'm going to touch on the theoretical and the conceptual framework. Okay, because I think if you put your theoretical framework in chapter 1, this is where it has to come. Okay, after you have talked about the problem statement, you put your theoretical framework here, then only you go to your research objectives and research question. Okay, so what is theoretical framework? What is conceptual framework? So, while preparing for each time that I have to prepare a presentation like this, I have to reread on theoretical and conceptual framework because I want to make sure that I'm not giving you the wrong information. But Alhamdulillah, each time I check my understanding is correct. been confirmed by other researchers when I search. Yeah. So instead of giving you definition of what is theoretical, what is conceptual, what I'll do is I'm going to just share with you so that you can experience it also. And then I think you understand it better rather than, okay, conceptual framework is this and theoretical is that. So I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'm going to just give you examples and I think I'm very sure you can understand the difference between the two. Okay. So first we talk about framework. What is framework? Framework is like a frame. You frame something within the boundary. Okay, within the boundary of your research. It's just like you want to build a house. You have the frame. Okay, when you build your house within that frame, then you will get the house that you want. For example, if it's an L-shaped house, then you frame it like that, within that. You want a double-story house, then you frame it in such a way. And then when you start building the blocks, putting on the bricks, it will not go out of, you will not put the block outside the frame of your L-shaped house. Okay, because you intend to have an L-shaped house, of course you put your brick within that L shape. You don't put it outside and then your house will become hexagon shape. Okay, so that is framework. Okay, within the framework, within the boundary. Okay, so it is like, you know, when you want to do this research, is choosing the right factors to explain the problem that you intend to study. House noise again. House noise again. Shafiq, can you just close the door? Sorry. This is the challenge of working from home. Okay. All right. So, for now, I use factors. Yeah. Those in the first semester, you may not understand what is variable. So I will just use factors. And then the problems will be the thing that you want to do, the issue that you want to look at. But it's actually a phenomena. Okay. So we are going to use layman terms now, factors and problem. So we are choosing the factors that contributes to the problem. So we'll start. Okay, we'll choose this one, yeah, because everybody knows that young people, they are having problem in speaking English. So English speaking skill is the problem. So we can, if you are teachers, you say, why are my students, having problem to speak English? Why are Terengganu students have problem to speak English? Why are Malaysian students, why are Arab students having problem to speak English? Okay, so this is what I want to do because my students have problems in speaking English. So I just use one sample. Yeah, you can use job satisfaction, etc. in your field. But this is what you want to do. English speaking skill. This is the problem. This is the phenomenon. So what are the factors you think contribute to this phenomenon? Not being able to speak English well by the age of 18 years old. What is the factors? So you say, oh, the factors is the English language competency. They're not very good. Okay, they don't really have a strong grasp of the grammar or the vocabulary. Okay, the English. They have no practice. They don't practice. In Terengganu, they don't speak English at all. They speak Malay even to their English teachers. No practice. And then they say, oh, the fear. They're so afraid. That's why they don't practice. They're afraid. They're afraid of the English teachers. They're afraid to use the language, and then they are anxious, they are worried. In class, they get worried to try. Okay, they do not want, they're afraid that their friends will laugh at them. They're afraid their friend will laugh at their English, and they're afraid their friend will laugh that they are trying to become, to become Westerners. Okay, to become Mak Saleh. So, and then what else? What else? What are the factors that contributes to them not being able to speak English? And then you say, oh, they don't have self-confidence. And they don't have motivation. They're not motivated. So you have all these factors. And then of course they'll say, oh, actually, you know, girls are better than boys. Boys are better than, and then you put all this factors. Okay, so you have all this. Of course, you're not going to put other factors that are not related. You do not want to put, for example, the socio-economic status, the income of the family. Okay, because English language proficiency, that is the not being able to speak English is what everybody knows. Okay, the local context. Okay, if you remember what we did for the background, is what we know. But what is the underlying variable? What is the roots to that not being able to speak? Okay, the researchers need to look at the underlying factor, the roots to the inability to speak English. What is the root? We cannot say just because of income, okay? Because that is an outside factor, okay? So English language competency is self-confidence, is all rooting to that student, okay? Because we want to study that student. All right, so we have all these factors, yeah? Now what do? What we do, we try to frame it within the research framework. We call it research framework first, yeah? So let's frame it. And we frame it and put it in the form of relationship. What contributes to what? So a simple one will be like this. English competency will contribute to their English speaking skill. Low proficiency, low speaking skill. High proficiency, high speaking skill. Okay? And then we say their anxiety or their anxiousness. It's going to, if they are not anxious, they don't care. They just speak whether their grammar is right or wrong. If they are less anxious, a speaking skill will increase. More anxious, okay, speaking skill will decrease. So we look in terms of relationship. Okay, and self-confidence. High self-confidence, high speaking skill at the end of the day. Okay, low self-confidence, of course, they won't practice, therefore, low speaking skills. Okay, but how do you get all this? While you are thinking on the factors, you don't simply use that. You need to read research, and then you need, based on whatever that you know and whatever the research say, you are going to choose and use the words used by in the area. Okay, anxious, we don't say anxious, is anxiety. Self-confident, we use self-confident. Motivation, we use motivation. Okay, and then there are these girls and boys, and then we have this fear, and then we have no practice. So where do we put when you read your literature? There's nowhere to put this, so don't put, because you do not want too many factors. Because the more factors you have, the more that you have to measure using instrument. So if you have no practice, it's okay. Practice is frequency of usage. So that one, if you want to do experimental, you can just embed that in your experiment, in your study. For example, after 3 speaking practice, after 4, after 10, after 12, okay, that it will be frequency. So practice and no practice, maybe that. Okay. Fear is the same as anxious. So usually research calls it anxiety. Anxiety can be worrying, can be fear. So since research use anxiety, we use anxiety, we throw away fear. And then girls and boys, usually this one we can just test it based on we can divide the group later on, girls and boys, and then you can just compare. So we don't have to put it under these factors contributing to English proficiency. Gender should just be a mediating. variable, okay? Should be just mediate it. Or is it moderate it? Anyway, okay. All right, so we get this, yeah? Now we are already in the framework and we show relationship. Okay? Now I show it. Now we are going to show you what is conceptual framework. It's the same, yeah? This is conceptual framework. We are not going to use girls and boys. We are not going to use fear, no practice, because literature do not have all this. That's why you have to read the literature, you have to read articles. Which one are they using? Okay, which one are they using? You use those. Those that they're not using, throw it away, because if you put in, it's not easy to explain once you collect data. And how are you going to collect data? What instrument do you want to use? Okay, so since literature research by previous researchers, they are focusing on these four, so you don't need to use to put in the other three factors. You can just embed. So this is conceptual framework that will be the boundary of your research. The concept of the variables for your research. Okay, now we are going to call it independent variables and dependent. No longer factors, yeah? No longer factors, no longer problem. We are going to call this independent variables and dependent. What is dependent variables? Dependent variables is the variable that you want to look into, is the thing, is the problem that you want to look into. This is the problem. This is dependent variable will fluctuate based on the contribution of the independent variable. Okay, it will fluctuate. That means different students with different proficiency level, you are going to see different finding for DV. Dependent variable is dependent on, is leaning on, it is relying on the independent variable. Okay, it changes based on independent variable. Independent variable will maintain, will be as it is. Because if you are studying these students, okay, their English, if your study is for 4 months, you conduct an experimental study for 4 months, their English language proficiency will not fluctuate so much. It's going to be like that. But their anxiety will fluctuate. You may want to control their anxiety. So that is why we have pre-test and post-test. For the pre-test, you look at their speaking skill. At what level? For example, at level 2. Okay? Speaking skill at level 2. The beginning of the study. So your independent variable, you're going to control a little bit. That means if you have a class, you're going to control their anxiety level. No fear at all. No worry at all. You are going to measure if this contributes to their speaking skill. Okay? If you are doing a research, you're not doing experimental. You are doing a survey kind of a research. Okay, you just distribute questionnaire. Okay, out of 5 classes, if you have 40 per class, 40 times 200 students. Okay, these different students have different English proficiency level at that point when you collect data. Okay, different proficiency level, different anxiety level, different self-confidence, and different motivation. And you will find their speaking skill at that point will be different based on the English proficiency, anxiety, etc. So independent variable will not change for that one student. Okay, will not change. It will change through time, but at that point when you collect data, it will not change. Dependent variable, your finding will change based on the proficiency level of the student. So this dependent variable is what you want to find. So this is conceptual framework. When the examiner look at this, they will know, one, what you are studying. You are studying English speaking skill of your respondent. And they know what are the contributors to the dependent variable, or the independent. They know the independent variable. You have 4 independent variables. Okay, so they know, they can see the conceptual framework. All right. Okay, so that is conceptual framework, the concept that you're using. Many students, my students also, they put their data collection procedures as conceptual framework. No. Conceptual framework must be the concept that you're using. Okay, what is the concept? Okay, to explain the phenomena. Okay, so this is conceptual framework. Now, what is theoretical framework? Okay, let's move on. Okay, you insert the theory, okay, to explain the concept. Okay, so that is conceptual framework. So you have this. Okay, we put that. Okay, so the theory to explain. So this is theoretical framework. So if you include all this, it becomes theoretical framework with conceptual framework in it. Okay. So if you don't include the theoretical, the theories, okay, you just explain, it becomes theoretical conceptual framework only. So my suggestion would be, you can use it, you can interchange. Yeah, you can say conceptual framework for the whole thing, or you can say theoretical framework for the whole thing. But I hope that you know, conceptual framework is just the independent variable and the dependent variable and the relationship. That is conceptual framework. The theoretical framework will be the theories that you use to guide the concepts or the variables in your research. Okay. With this theory, it will be easy for you to explain the findings later on. When you have the findings, yeah, on the speaking skill later on, whatever findings you get, sometimes you get new findings, theory will help to explain. Because theory is not just theory like that. There are so many little branches under that theory to help explain your findings based on those. Okay, so that's all. That's all theoretical and conceptual framework. Okay. This is another example. Yeah, sorry, it's all about English. Yeah. Because I'm doing English, so all the valid examples will be related to my field. If I were to give example in a different field, for example, job satisfaction, I fear that I may do it wrongly. That's why, to be safe, I just use the example in my field. Okay, this one is reading academic text, and then the conceptual framework is that one: metacognition, prior knowledge, and English proficiency. Metacognition is cognition, thinking about thinking. Okay, when you read, you need to think. Okay, that's metacognition. Okay, that is conceptual framework, and that is theoretical framework. So the whole thing is theoretical framework. Okay, so the theory that guides each variable. So each variable that you put in, you must have a theory that guides. And it must be able to explain whatever you're finding. Okay, even a new finding, something that hasn't been talked about, the theory should be able to explain. Okay, if the theory cannot explain, that's a new finding. Okay, that's a new finding which you are adding to the theory, a small 1-inch addition to this big theory. We like it when there's no research has been talking about that. we like that because that's new finding. That's good. Okay. Okay, this is an example of a theory. If you look at this one, yeah, metacognition, metacognitive theory is very simple, just like that. But theory, in fact, is very in-depth, very comprehensive. It can explain a lot of things. That is why it's important to have theory there. Because your findings, whatever that you find, it will try to, you will go back to the theory and try to find where is it in the theory that have explained my finding. And then it's easy to justify. Okay, because in thesis, if you just use your logic, it's no go. We don't want your logic unless you are this big person. You're Stephen Krashen. Of course, you can write, you can say whatever you want, and everybody will be citing you. Okay, if you are these big names, you can actually create new things, and everybody will be clamoring to that article of yours. But if you as a student, even myself, even though I have been in this field for so long, nobody is going to listen to us. Unless we have citation, then only is credible. Okay? Okay. So basically, theoretical framework or conceptual, if you have theory there, yeah, that's why we have theoretical framework. Okay, at least how many factors for the situation, for the, okay, it depends, you know, it depends. If you have too many, you get confused. There'll be too many, let me go back, let me go back. Okay, this one is a lot already. When you have 4 variables here, you need 4 different instruments. And then you are going to tire, you make your respondent tired filling in this instrument. Okay. Okay, how many? Basically, you need to read the literature. You need to read the literature, and then you're going to choose the most relevant. Or if you have, for example, you have 4 like this, but motivation has been researched so much, but interest has not been researched, and you want to just switch, then you can put interest. Okay, interest. In my own study, just so that in my own study, interest plays a role in reading comprehension. But research says the contribution of interest in that reading material is only 6%. So to me, it's not worth the instrument and the time of the respondents to include that variable. So I just focus on 3. This is a PhD thesis, only 3 variables. Okay. You can have 2 variables if research says 2 is good enough. Okay. My advice is do not put too many variables, because the more the variables, the more instrument, and what's more important is the more paragraphs under problem statement, because these variables must already been talked about in your problem statement. Remember, problem statement, we say maximum 5 paragraphs. So 5 paragraphs, if you exclude the summary, you have 4 paragraphs. So 4 variables there. Okay, 4 variables. 4 variables. Okay, so how many? 2, 3 variables would be good enough. So let's try to have 3 variables. 2, I fear, is not enough, because what you are doing, you are going in depth. Okay, so try to achieve 3. Okay, to have 3 variables and see how it goes. So if you feel that with 3 variables is not in is too many, and you think you can get by for PhD thesis with 2 variables, then you can put two variables and then you go to proposal defense, and let's hear from uh, the examiner. The examiner will advise. Okay. Okay. Okay, theoretical framework is very important because you need to interpret the data later on. You need to, there's so many here, yeah. This one I got from a research, yeah, a research paper. Okay, it guides and inform the research. When this one, this last one, yeah, this one is at the beginning of the design. The research will guide you on what to see. For example, my area is scientific, my area is reading. Reading theory say there is reading, just reading the text, that is bottom up. There is also putting in or using your prior knowledge, that is top down. And there is also the juggling of these two, that is interactive. So reading this theory helps me to understand. Reading this theory helps me to understand the students, the respondents' behavior when they read. Okay, and I can explain the findings that I get. When students, for example, in the finding, it seems that the students were very quick to understand. This is first year students, and the MUET level, the proficiency was only 2, MUET band 2. And this student was reading a biology text, which when I was reading, I took about 6 times to read and understand the biology text. But when this student read the text, she read once and she understood. So from there, I understand she was using her top down, the prior knowledge, and she actually uttered it. She voiced it that she remembered certain things. So I understand what she was doing. She was assessing her prior knowledge. How did I know this? The theory tells me. So it's very important to go to the theory and understand the theory in order for you to later on do a very good study, and you can base the finding on the theory. And when once you understand the theory, but you still get a finding which the theory cannot explain, then you say, wow, you have hit a jackpot. Okay, this is something the theory has not explained. Future further research need to be done on it. Okay, so it's very important. This is just to explain the importance of theoretical framework, the theory that is backing up or that is guiding the research. What theory to use? Or this one, I think I have repeated myself already. Yeah? But what theories to use? As I mentioned earlier, what you do is you read previous theses in your area. When you read articles in your area, there will be theories to use, because these articles were based on theses or were based on studies that require them to use theory. So basically, you go back to that. You tabulate the theories. These theories for what, which variable, for which factor. You tabulate, and then it's easy for you to refer later on to to justify the theory that you are using. Okay. Salam. Okay. Okay, somebody asked Shafiq, yeah. Shafiq is not okay, because that's in the chat. He is not the a participant. He is just opening it for me to read the chat. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Okay, so this one is framework, conceptual framework. This one I got from somewhere. And then there are theories. You can put 4 theories, but it'll be too many. Yeah, you get confused later on. You just choose 1 or 2 theories, or maximum 3 theories to back up. So this one I got from my reading. Okay, on job satisfaction. The variable, independent variable 1, 2, 3, and then how it contributes to job satisfaction. That's a framework. Sorry, this one is repeating myself already. I forgot to change. Okay, formulating research objectives, research question. I think I have 15 more minutes. I rush a little bit, yeah. Okay, rule number 1. Okay, when you write your problem statement, so this one has to be aligned, yeah. The title of your thesis must be reflected in your background. And in your background, when you mention your background, you must already, at the end of that section on your background, you must already mention some of the variables that reflects the title and that you are going to use in your problem statement. In your problem statement, the first problem statement should align to your first research objective. It's easier, make it align. If you don't have it aligned, it's okay. In paragraph 1 of your problem statement, you have a certain variable, but that becomes objective 3. It's okay, but it's not need. Paragraph 1, you talk about a certain variable, that should be the research objective. Okay, the first research objective. And then that same one should be the research question. Okay, so it's aligned. It's easy for the reviewer to read. It's easy for you to read. And you should make sure it's all the same as you go throughout the thesis. Even during the discussion, you need to discuss the first one first and then the second one later. Don't mix. You give your readers a headache. Okay, so it should be aligned. Each problem statement will be addressed by in at least one research objective and then followed by at least one research question. And remember, research objectives come first before research question. Okay, you have a certain objective, then you formulate research question. And research question, you can have A, B, C. But all is catering to that one research objective. Okay. Okay, this one, yeah, it has to be parallel or has to align. Problem statement 2 talk about metacognition. Research objective is about the contribution of metacognition, and research question is what is the metacognition level. So it must be arranged this way. It's easier for everybody to read, especially for your examiners. Okay, when you formulate research objective, research, this one I say the alignment, yeah, the title must align to the objective, must align to the research question. Okay, the title, Cognitive Metacognitive Strategies in Reading Comprehension of Scientific Texts among ESL undergraduates. To identify cognitive metacognitive strategies, reading comprehension is there. Research question, strategies, reading scientific text must be there. It must be aligned so that the title is actually capturing the whole thing. That's why you can write your tentative title now, but later on you may want to improve on it so that it reflects. But it's very important at this semester 1, semester 2, when you are preparing your chapter 1, make sure you get your problem statement correct. Problem statement, research question, objective and question. Once this is correct, usually your supervisor will say, okay, get ready to defend your proposal. That is my style. Whenever I see the student's problem statement is ready, the research question will be ready by then, will be easily constructed. And then, you know, of course, the students need to do a pilot study on the instruments. Once that's done, you can already defend your proposal. Okay, this one is another simple one. When you write research objective, you need to use infinitive. English teacher, yeah, I like to do this so that students know that when you write your research question, research objective in English, okay, use infinitive, and these are some suggestions, yeah, to determine, to identify, to examine, to assess. Okay, you can have a few more, but usually you have 4 research objectives. You can have smaller research questions, but research objective make it broad. Okay, because if you have too many research objectives, okay, you you are not you will have too many research questions. Okay, research question you can have the general question, and then you can go specific. Okay, but research, as I say, yeah, research objective don't have like 8 research objectives. 3, 4, 5 would be good enough. Okay, would be good enough. Okay, hypothesis. This one you can read from my book if you want, yeah. And then significance of study. This one I don't have to go into it, but you need to know what is the theoretical impact, especially when you have the theoretical gap. That will be the impact. For teachers like me, it will be a pedagogical impact or practical impact. Job satisfaction, what is the impact on the employees or the management, okay? What's the significance to the curriculum design for teaching profession or the policy for other fields, okay, etc. Okay, very quickly, definition of terms. Choose 8 to 12 terms most relevant to that field. Okay, you don't have to put everything under the sun, yeah, on that. You need to pick and choose. Okay, for example, just now we did culture schemata or culture schema. Okay, we need to define it there. Maybe I have access to. Oh, okay. My book is with the publisher, UMT publisher. Okay, you can get it there. Okay, we go back to the definition of terms, yeah. All right. So 1 or 2 sentences will be good. Now, don't write 1 paragraph. When you write 1 paragraph, it sounds like literature review. That should be pushed to literature review. Okay, 1 or 2 sentences, 2 to 3 lines only. Okay, if you have 2, then 4 lines, enough. Too long. Nobody wants to read too long a term. Okay, definition of term. Okay, this is an example. Again, of course, yeah, I'm using the sample from my own, yeah. Okay, scientific text. Okay, scientific text refers to text written about sciences and make your scientific language, terminology, concepts. And then I have citation, somebody say, what is L2 proficiency? What is metacognition? Very simple. That's all. Okay. And then limitation is not that difficult. Yeah, you can just read the slides. Sorry, this one is not it. Okay, so I've come to the end of my presentation, and I can answer your question if you have any. Okay, so what I'll do is I stop sharing. Yeah, you can look at the slides I shared for participant. Yeah. Okay, so we have less than 10 minutes. Yeah, I can answer your questions, or you can even write to me. Yeah, through what? Yeah, through, I don't know, Dr. Azhar. Okay, but you can always ask your supervisor. You can ask your supervisor on this. I remember Dr. Azhar in, okay, Dr. Definition of term, use own word or need to refer to others' word. The best is use your own words. Okay, use your own words, and then you have a citation if you want to. You can put a citation. That means you use your own word, but this word, this definition was actually given by somebody else. So you just rephrase that somebody's definition into your own words. Then put citation there. Okay, you shouldn't just lift, copy paste from somebody's work. It has to be your word. Okay. Any question? Chapter 1, yeah, chapter 1 is critical. Okay, chapter 1 is critical. As I mentioned, it's like the head car of a train. Yeah, it's going to drive the research. If you have the head correctly done, everything will be good. Okay. If I use second order construct, and in total I have 2 IVs. Okay, 2 independent. It depends on how the depth of your research. I think it should be okay. It should be okay, because even with 3 independent variables, I have a lot of instruments to use. Okay, I have a lot of instruments to use. So with 2 instruments, if it can already help construct the framework, can already help you answer the phenomena of your problem, I think it should be good enough. My total instrument, I don't think you mean 79, yeah? My total instrument is 79. I think it's perhaps the items. Is it items on one instrument? Instrument, I mean, item is okay, 79 is okay. Okay? Instrument, I mean like this, yeah? Just now I have 3 independent variables, 4 including dependent. Okay, metacognition, and then you have language proficiency, and you have, what is the other one? Prior knowledge. So one instrument for metacognition is about 35 items. One instrument, 35 items. Prior knowledge, another instrument. This instrument has about, I don't remember, but I think about 40 items. Another instrument is on second language proficiency. Okay, in this one, usually you can use the established results from TOEFL, for example, or from MUET, for example, or from IELTS, for example. Okay, this one in an instrument, but it's already there. Okay, and then the dependent variables. I have 2 instruments for independent variables. One is writing. One instrument, but students have to write. Another one is multiple choice, around 20 or 30 items. So in all, there are so many items, but if you count instruments, there are 4 or 5 instruments. Okay. All right, so 79 items. If it is an established one, you have to use all. If this is an instrument that you created yourself, you need to pilot it, and then it has to go through factor analysis and to find whether the items are strong enough or not. Okay, so yeah, so if the item, if you have so many items in one instrument, but it is an established one, be careful not to simply delete, because this item catered to a certain construct. Just like metacognition just now, and I show you there are 35 items only, but no, is it 35 or is it 45 items? But it caters to 2 different constructs, that is awareness and monitoring. And under that, there are many other small details which we cannot delete, we cannot throw away. But if it is your own items, you need to run it, you need to pilot it a few times, and then to just choose the strongest item that can give result. Okay. Next question. Okay, are we done? I think we are. Yeah? You can get the book from penerbit, yeah, or from UMT publisher. The explanation in the book is similar to what I have done in today's talk. Yeah, so it's about the same. Maybe today's talk there are more new things, because the book was published in 2018. So as time passed, yeah, I have other ideas. Okay, all right. So if that's it, I thank you for being with me. Yeah, 35 attendees. Thank you very much. You can always ask me questions. Email is the best. Yeah, because if you send WhatsApp, it'll be too much. Okay, too many things coming in. So you can email to me. Let me write my email. But I think you have your own supervisor. Your supervisor would do a good job in explaining to you. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to type my email. Hold on. How long? Okay. So thank you everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.
Salam. Terima kasih doktor. Jangan lupa
Bye.
10,000 bulan kan?
Sorry for the noise, the background noise.
Thank you, Kak Syam.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Puan Sharifah ya, ada orang tanya lah recording.
Ya doktor, saya dah jawab tadi.
Oh yeah, okay, alright.
Nanti bila saya dapat dokumen recording ni, nanti saya akan email pada dia lah. Sebab saya dah minta dia email pada saya.
Okay, terima kasih
Sama.
Terima kasih Puan. Terima kasih. Thanks everyone ya. Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Syam.
Well done. Thank you Ti. Thank you ramai geng-geng ELC Bazaria. Geng Bazaria pun ada ni. Students.